From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, this is GB News. Up next, it's The Late Show Live with Ben Leo live from Washington, D.C. Ben, what's coming up on the show, mate?
Hello, Alex. Good to see you again. Crime in Britain costs £33 billion a year. That's according to new research from the Tories. It's posed an interesting question because my family are over from Blighty today. The boys are here, the wife are here, and we were seeing the National Guard on the streets all across DC. And the boys love it. They like seeing soldiers in, you know, camouflage and their guns by their side. Do we need the National Guard in Britain? I'd think not, but it does pose a massive question. £33 billion a year on crime, costing victims and the state. Do we need to get tougher on crime? Is it something Labour is missing a trick on? Of course, with the Republicans over here, President Trump, absolutely zero tolerance to crime. And it goes back to the old broken window theory from Rudy Giuliani back in New York, back in the day, the early 2000s. If you deal with the small stuff first, then it doesn't escalate to the big stuff. So is that something for maybe Sadiq Khan to ponder over? Elsewhere, of course, the Chinese have told Keir Starmer and the Labour government, do not get involved in Taiwan. Do not open your mouth. Do not get involved politically because we will punish you for it economically, diplomatically. Whereas, on the flip side, President Trump is about to go and sign a massive trade deal with China, I think on Thursday. As you said a bit earlier today, Alex, stocks will be flying in the morning. All crypto and gold and commodities will be absolutely flying. And finally, yeah, of course, Sarah Pochin. I know it's been done to death this weekend, but she's been firing back today. A war of words with the likes of Wes Streeting, who, as I said in the last hour or so, was embroiled in his own controversy in recent years for saying he wanted a journalist to be thrown under a train. So I think we should be a bit more forgiving of each other, maybe be a bit more humble and gracious, but unfortunately the left, they don't accept apologies these days. So, Alex, what's the answer?
Well, I just think you don't apologise, mate. Just get on with it and let them all squabble. And they'll forget about it in a week and they'll find a new victim, won't they, as they always do.
Exactly. Thank you, Alex. It's a big 2 hours ahead on The Late Show Live. Let's do this. Hello, good evening to you. Thank you for your company. Tonight on The Late Show Live.
Drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, full of, you know, people that basically are anything
What's wrong
other
with that,
than
Sarah?
white.
Stop apologising. Reform UK's Sarah Pochin absolutely crucified by Labour over her comments about diversity in ads, despite saying sorry. So, should anyone bother saying sorry at all these days? Also tonight.
This is the fifth meeting that I've had with my Chinese counterpart, the Vice Premier, Hu Lifeng, and we covered a wide range of issues, and I think we've reached a substantial framework.
Trade war? What trade war? President Trump will soon meet with China's Xi Jinping, where it's hoped the pair will finally sign a big trade deal. Meanwhile, the Chinese threaten Britain unless we back down over Taiwan. Charming, eh? We'll also be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, hours before they even hit the shelves back in Blighty. And of course, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this one.
Is it fair to say, after the 2026 midterms, you're going to give it serious thought?
Yeah, I'd be lying.
Lofty ambitions indeed. California Governor Gavin Newsom is the latest contender to throw his hat into the ring for the 2028 presidential race. Alongside, last night we told you, Kamala Harris is back again, while J.D. Vance on the Republican side is leading the polls for the Reds. But who would be the best candidate, the best next president for Britain? Also,
going back to Honolulu just to get that Maui Wowie.
President Trump shows off his signature dance moves as he lands in Malaysia. Very good. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live, and your night's just getting started. Hello, good evening. Thank you for your company. All right, we know the story by now, don't we? Reform MP Sarah Pochin went on the attack today after making a very valid point, in a bad way, granted, about over-representation in advertising.
Drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, full of, people that basically are anything
What's wrong
other
with that,
than
Sarah?
white.
Labour quickly seized on the opportunity to slam Pochin, and who'd blame them after she gave them an open goal pretty much with her clumsy delivery of what is actually a factual statement. That was mistake one. Her second mistake was the apology. She said, "My comments on a Talk TV phone-in earlier today were phrased poorly and I unreservedly apologise for any offence caused, which was not my intention." She actually went on to give a good and detailed explanation behind what she was actually trying to say. But the apology, of course, as ever, wasn't good enough for the left. It never is. They're too ungracious to accept people make mistakes or misspeak or make their point in a clumsy way like Sarah Pochin did, which is why she should never have bothered in the first place. Health Secretary Wes Streeting joined Labour's chorus of condemnation on the BBC.
I think what she said was a disgrace. I think it was racist, and the deafening silence from her party leader says it all.
Interesting. This is the same Health Secretary, by the way, who once apologised himself for a litany of tweets that culminated in his wishes to throw a journalist under a train. Streeting later wrote on X, "Fear of racism has come up on the doorstep more in the last few months than during my last 15 years elected in politics." Well, Reform UK's Sarah Pochin returned fire today after that pretty wet apology the day before, saying, "Dear Wes Streeting, I'm sorry you feel that way. Perhaps you could remind us all how strongly you spoke up when this happened."
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white. Every principal of a college or university in Scotland, white. Every head teacher in Scotland, white. Every chair of a public sector body in Scotland, white. Every High Court judge in Scotland, white. Every present governor in Scotland.
Scotland's Anas Sarwar 5 years ago, and Sarah Pochin's right, isn't she? Where was Wes Streeting and every other man and his dog piping up on social media during that racist Scottish Parliament tirade? Rules for me, but not for thee. Well, it's time to stop apologising, especially when everyone with a rational brain knows the point you were trying to make is totally valid. Because the moment you do, the rabid left seize on it as a weapon against you, because they are totally ungracious in the battlefield of ideas and debate. Well, let's get the take now of George Madgwick, the leader of Reform UK Group on Portsmouth City Council. George, thanks for your company. What was your take on Sarah Pochin's, again, a clumsy mistake initially with the wording of her point, which is very valid, but I'm more interested in the apology side of things. Should we just bother not apologising anymore?
I mean, apologies have almost become worthless to the left wing of politics. As you said in your opening speech there, they don't accept it and they just use it as additional fuel to light the fire that they use to spin their narrative. At the end of the day, we can all accept that Sarah made a clumsy mistake in her wording at that piece in time. But as you said before, the point that she was making was factually true. It's factually accurate that the people from the BAME community are disproportionately represented in advertising campaigns. And that was what the question was. But apologising and pandering to the left makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. And I think that she should have just stayed saying it with her chest and just continued.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just need to stay firm, as Robert Jenrick did, I guess, with the comments about the lack of white people in Handsworth in Birmingham, saying there was hardly any white faces around. He didn't apologise, and actually, I applaud Jenrick for doing that. I don't think what he said was racist. I don't think what Sarah Pochin said was racist, although it's easily conceived as racist by the left, especially when you're knee deep in identity politics. And again, I'll just say I think she was she was clumsy in her delivery. But what she did do was give the likes of Labour, Wes Streeting, just an easy open goal. It was obvious what they were going to do if you handled the comment as she did in that way. Have you heard from people on the doorstep, George, down in Pompey? Any Reform voters, Labour voters? Have they been talking about this poaching incident?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. As you probably know, we had Reforms Action Day yesterday across the entire UK, where 450 branches were across the country signing up new members. And these comments come within the situation of that. So we did hear it quite immediately on the doorsteps late last night and early this morning. And but to be honest with you, people don't care. The Reform supporters down here and the people of the thing don't care because, as I say, I think the basis of it is that she was saying a factual point. She was making a factual statement. And the left have made a mountain out of a molehill. They've taken a 20-second clip and run with it. But as you said before, Wes Streeting is of no man to make any criticism of something that they've said in the past in haste. And even David Lammy made a boo-boo a couple of months ago at his own conference where he said that Nigel Farage was part of Hitler Youth that disbanded 20 years before Nigel was born. You know, politicians sometimes make errors with things that they say. And, you know, that's what happens when you're in the middle of a live interview like we are now. It happens sometimes, it was clumsy, but let's move on. And in 2 days' time, we'll have a new big story and everybody will have forgotten about this.
Yeah, indeed. And also Keir Starmer, he never apologised for saying that calls for a rape gang inquiry were a far-right bandwagon. Lucy Powell, his new deputy leader, said something similar. I think it was the rape gang situation was a right-wing dog whistle. We never had any apologies over that. I mean, and for me, as I said, anybody with a rational brain knew the point Sarah Pochin was trying to make. That what Keir Starmer said, smearing millions of British people concerned about the institutional racist rape of working class white girls in Britain is far, far worse than what Sarah Pochin did. George, thank you for your company. Really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch up soon. gbnews.com/you'll say lots of comments coming in. Kim, you've said adverts should contain people proportionate to their prevalence in the population so as to be representative. This applies whether they're white, black, Asian or any other background. And Chris, you have said, good evening Chris, and this is a very pertinent point, the left just want to brand us all racist at every opportunity. We aren't scared of that word anymore. Maybe if the Labour Party weren't scared of it either, they'd investigate Pakistani rape gangs. Yes, indeed. The Nazi insults, the Hitler insults, the racist insults, they don't work anymore, they don't mean anything. Well, let's get the take now of US commentator and Democrat Party strategist Bob Weiner and the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. Good evening, panel. Hope you're well. Bob, did you see the comments of Sarah Pochin, the Reform MP? Did you see what she said?
Well, I got your point that people should apologise. And boy, would that stop the news cycle if they ever did. It's the easiest thing to do. Trump just got himself in big trouble. Washington Post headline, Trump raises tariffs on Canada by 10% by railing against ad with Reagan. And he refused to admit that Reagan actually did say what NBC said he said, and that Doug Ford from Toronto was right in running the ad in the World Series, but it got his goat, and now he had his latest tantrum, and he's back to his first grade playground in raising tariffs on Canada. So yes, we're going to have a great deal with China. I'm all for it if it sticks. Trump always chickens out, Taco Trump, and you never know, it's back and forth. But he's got 100 countries, and with Brazil and with Argentina and all of that, he's got these tariffs.
But when it comes to apologies, why are your cohorts on the left, why are they so ungracious in accepting apologies?
Well, they do apologize if we make mistakes. We absolutely do.
No, you never accept apologies.
From who? For what?
Well,
what are we talking about?
Generally from the right. When people make mistakes, for example, there was a guy in the UK the other week, a political commentator, journalist called Christian Calgie. He suggested that a prominent lefty MP should be deported despite being British. He said sorry about that. You know, just sorry. I shouldn't have said it. And she doubled down and retweeted him and said, "You are a disgusting racist." Blah blah blah. You know, it's never a gracious acceptance of an apology.
It should be.
Yeah.
But that goes for Trump, too. I mean, like I said, Jack Nicholson, the great statement of Jack Nicholson, and I sent the clip to you guys, you know, you can't handle the truth. Trump refuses to say that actually he was wrong, and Reagan did say that, and Reagan did oppose tariffs. He said they raise prices, you lose jobs, it creates economic collapse like in 29 and 30, and he refuses to say that Reagan actually said that. He will not, because he's so embarrassed that his hero, iconic Ronald Ronald Reagan, said the opposite of what Trump believes on. He won't say that he was wrong.
You think he should be more gracious as well? We'll get onto that tariff story very, very shortly.
And the apology issue is relevant to it. You're 100% right.
But Victoria, your take.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to know why Bob wants to bring everything to Trump, even when the question that you ask has very little relevance. But, that's neither here nor there. But here we go. The words of, I guess, the great Ben Shapiro, right? He says, facts don't care about your feelings. And here's the fact. According to the 2021 UK census, 4% of the population in England and Wales is African American, Caribbean, Black British.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
We have seen overrepresentation of different diverse groups in the media, whether that's in the US or the UK, to, I think, an obscene, almost laughable point, right? We had, post-COVID, we had advertisements for athletic brands in sizes, 4XL with women that are clearly overweight, and they were being hired to promote athletic wear. We also had just a few months ago the backlash on the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad because the American Eagle brand decided to put a white woman in denim, and that was an uproar.
Yeah.
And so, I think you really see both sides of the pendulum here. You have, on one hand, people that are actually representative of large portions of groups being represented in media, and then the left wants to poke fun at them or complain about them and will literally do anything to set off comments on them.
So why is that, Bob? Why is there and it's clear, this is a fact, why is there an overrepresentation of sort of DEI demographics in advertising? So as Victoria said, the sort of black population of the UK is something about 4%, yet they account for nearly 40 to 50%, I think, of featuring in advertising. What's that about? And is that okay? Is there
affirmative action has swung back and forth and back and forth. If you look at the jobs, if you look at the poverty, if you look at the disproportionate health care, the bad housing, so there's a whole thing, and it's a valid debate that you can have. And I won't mention the T word, but is trying to do everything he can to stop DEI, and that's in every field. And so it's
you're pro DEI.
I think where appropriate, and yes. I worked for two Black Caucus members, the two founders, Conyers and Rangel, for 12 years of my life, and for Lee Brown, who was the first drug czar before Barry McCaffrey, who I worked for, who was black. And I'm very familiar with the black way of thinking, and they can't understand how there are Republicans who vote black when they take away every program, everything that made them, everything that gave them their jobs. So you have to look at it that way.
Before we go to the commercial break, I mean, can you name me something that black people don't have access to or don't have the rights as their sort of white counterparts, Latino counterparts?
Yes.
What are they missing out on?
Voting. The Supreme Court is trying to stop them from having the right to the proportion that they have in the states of voting. And that is
by doing what? What do you mean voting?
By gerrymandering them away and allowing the gerrymandering to stick that takes away their votes when, for example, Clyburn State, they have 14% of the vote, his one seat, and yet 28% of the population. They're trying to even take away his seat.
Victoria, I don't really know what you're talking about, actually, Bob.
I'm talking about one man, one vote, one person, one vote, which is in the Constitution, and the Congress has the right to fix that.
But I'm just asking a simple question. What do white people have, or Latinos have, or Hispanics have that black people don't?
Now you're doing race against race. That's a more difficult question.
Well, that's what this is about. This is about race.
Yeah, but with whites having the proportionate of the benefits.
Yeah, that's my point.
There is a coalition of Latinos and blacks. There's a coalition of Latinos and blacks. The Black Caucus and the Latino Caucus in Congress have often worked together. So there's a lot of cooperation.
Right. Okay. Do you know what black people have that white people don't?
I think they get preferential treatment. I think that's what they have.
Well, sorry, white people have that black people don't.
The white people have the black people.
What you said is the right answer.
No, black people get preferential treatment, absolutely.
Through DEI? Through DEI initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And here's another thing, just quick before we go to the break, is that the Trump administration has tried to do away with DEI programs. However, universities are still pushing them, despite what the Trump administration is saying that they do. And actually, I think the Trump administration should bring down the hammer on them and actually penalize them by limiting their federal funding.
Censoring?
No.
Censoring education? Censoring professors?
No, just don't give them federal dollars. There's absolutely no reason why universities that have billion-dollar endowments should be getting my tax dollars and your tax dollars to push radical programming, which is a detriment to society.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Thank you for that. Good start. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts on that. Still ahead on The Late Show Live.
Is it fair to say, after the 2026 midterms, you're going to give it serious thought?
Yeah, I'd be lying otherwise.
2028 White House race is already heating up, and we're not even, a year into this first administration yet. But who will be the best candidate for Britain? Kamala Harris was piping up last night. That was Gavin Newsom there, the governor of California, saying that he'd be keen as well. Then on the Republican side, you've got JD Vance, you've got maybe even Eric Trump. Who would be best for Britain in 2028? This is The Late Show Live, back in just a tick.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The fifth meeting that I've had with my Chinese counterpart, the Vice Premier, Hu Lifeng, and we covered a wide range of issues, and I think we've reached a substantial framework.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live. Have the US and China avoided a full-scale trade war? Well, let me tell you now, stocks, commodities, crypto, it's all pumping. We are in a sea of green because apparently the US and China will be agreeing finally a big trade deal on Thursday next week when President Trump meets Xi. We'll have more on that very shortly. But first, crime in Britain is costing us a staggering £33 billion a year through treating victims, damage or loss of property and preventative measures. That's according to a new analysis by the Conservative Party. The party says official data shows violent offences where victims are injured make up the biggest share, around £10 billion a year. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp outlined the Tories' plans to tackle the worst affected areas.
So the Conservatives have a new policing plan. Using savings from the welfare budget, we're going to hire 10,000 extra police officers, which will enable us to do surge hotspot patrolling in the 2,000 highest crime hotspots around the country. That's 5% of neighbourhoods, representing a quarter of all crime. We also want to see stop and search tripled to take knives off our streets and to save lives.
OK, let's get the take of former head of National Counter-Terrorism and Security Office and the former senior police officer, Chris Phillips. Chris, good evening. Thank you for your company. £33 billion a year crime is costing UK taxpayers. Does that sound like a big figure to you? And also, I'd like to know your take on Labour's attitude, particularly to law and order. And by the way, just to add to that, the Tories are fine ones to talk about spiralling crime. They were in power for 14 years. But Chris, your take, please.
Good evening. Good morning, Ben. It's fascinating to hear politicians talk like this. He clearly has such a lack of understanding of the issues. Of course, crime costs billions of pounds. It costs people's lives. It costs all sorts of things to our communities. But these things crime hasn't just come from nowhere. There's always been crime of one form or another. In my day, it was really more about burglary and street robbery. Nowadays, it seems to have changed, and actually multiple shoplifters are going around scot-free, it seems. So we've always had crime, Ben. We've always had crime. It's always cost a lot of money. It has got worse, and it's got worse for a lot of reasons. The lack of resources in policing is quite incredible. Chris Philp talks about these 10,000 extra officers. We've lost thousands of experienced officers over the years because of lack of resources. We've lost their police stations. Police officers have been taken out of the communities that they served and prevented crime or caught crime early. That's not happening anymore. We now rely on a fire brigade style policing where they respond to incidents. And of course, they don't always do a good job at that, because quite often the officers are so inexperienced, so unaware of their skills, because no one's training them in the basic skills of policing. But all this comes from a long way back. The resources have just been taken away.
Well, it was the Tories, of course, who axed 20,000 officers and then pledged to bring them back in drips and drabs. And we just saw on the screen there, Chris, images of the likes of coffee, cheese and so on behind plastic screens because shoplifting is so out of control. It reminds me of the United States here, this side of the pond. I mean, I'm going to bring in my panel actually now, Bob Weiner and Victoria Churchill. Victoria, we see this side of the pond with products in shops where, in pharmacies, CVS and whatever, Target and so on, where everyday products are, I mean, shampoo, whatever you want to, name your products. They are behind screens because people are shoplifting. We see it a lot here, right? Now it's coming to the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely horrible. And just here in Washington, D.C., I'm sure if you go into a CVS, which is a drugstore, kind of like a Boots, I guess, for all you UK viewers, that would be our equivalent of a Boots or a store like that. You can't go in and you can't buy a razor. You can't buy, as you were saying, shampoo. You can't buy. I think they even lock up, washing up liquid and laundry liquid. And so the crime has gotten so bad that basic household necessities, you have to go to these shops and, God forbid, half the time you've got one person working the entire store, both at the till and around the store. So you have to wait until they're done ringing somebody up, and then they come to you, unlock your product, and then they have to go check out 3 other people that have gotten in line while you've been pulling your product.
But what's happening now, Victoria? In the streets of DC, at least, Bob Weiner, we have the National Guard, the heroes. My boys love them. They saw them earlier today. They saw them big, strapping young volunteers, or reservists rather, their guns by their side. And boy, did we feel safe, Bob Weiner.
Well, you're in my bailiwick now. I was a spokesman for the White House Drug Office for 6 years and for the U.S. House Narcotics Committee for another 6 years. You guys are missing the boat. Drug crime, U.S. drug trafficking, $200 billion a year. And that's not even including the diverted prescription drugs that doctors try to make money off of and do with pill mills. So you really, I'm having dinner tonight right before the show, and I'm over at Ruth Chris 2 blocks down, and I asked the guy at the seat next to me, what do you do? And he says, I sell drugs. Oh, good, I'm so glad. I said, and his wife is looking for a job, but I said, how do you afford Ruth Chris? He said, because I sell drugs. That's what's going on.
What about the National Guard, Bob? Well, Chris, dare I say we need the National Guard on the streets in the UK, which I guess is the TA, it's the reserve army, basically.
Yeah, Ben, listen, we don't need that. We're not in that kind of position. We have got, well, no, we really aren't. We've got areas that are a real concern. And of course, what we've done actually incredibly right through the Conservatives and Labour as well, is we've reduced their numbers of normal police officers, our community constables that used to stop this kind of stuff, that would know those people. Now we have groups that are organised, and this is the big issue, I think, is organised crime has got to a very low level. So meat is being stolen and then sold by organised groups, right up to the drugs that are also being peddled across our streets, organised groups. And we've got to have enough police officers to deal with these problems.
Yeah, indeed. How many more police officers do we need? And also, you mentioned about experience, Chris, of these coppers. Look, I look probably no older than 17 myself. I get it, right? But I look at some of these coppers on the streets, the videos doing the rounds. People don't respect them anymore, not least criminals and, scallies, basically. These kids look about 12, 13 years old. They have no life experience whatsoever. It looks like that anyway. And they just can't handle themselves. Is there a problem with respect on the streets, respect of the police? Because when I was a kid, if I saw a copper, it was a scary thing. If a copper spoke to you and told you off, that was a big deal. These days, people just take the mickey out of them.
Yeah, in 1981, I was 19 when I joined, Ben, and I was in the same boat. I felt young, I looked young, I was inexperienced, and I was able to build up that experience. And I joined at the same time as a large number of other quite young people. But we do need older people that command respect. Many times, I think I would prefer to see police officers, maybe from ex-military types that come in. But we also have to understand that we now have a community that does lack respect, and social media that's used to just multiply offences when they take place. You see one shoplifting is viewed by millions of people, and that's a big issue because it does raise the fear of crime as well.
Yeah. Bob, last word to you.
But you don't get that respect by sending in the National Guard and tearing people about and throwing them on the ground. As Pritzker and Newsom, two of the presidential candidates to be, and I know we want to talk about that a little, but have tried to block them and somewhat successfully from their states. That's not how you get respect. You get respect at the kitchen table, parents, education, training. That's how you gain respect, and that's the way that crime can be prevented, is at the kitchen table.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think parents need to do a better job of looking after their kids and making sure their kids are being told no and they're being punished when they're young children. You said a president as well. But I would say, here's a little story for you. When I was 17, I went to Ibiza for the first time, lads' holiday. We were out in a group. A couple of my friends took a wee in the street in Ibiza. Do you know what the civil guard did? They rounded everybody up. They battered them with truncheons and they slapped them around the face and made them mop up what they'd just done. My friends never urinated in the street in Spain again. So, look, I'm not saying our police, Chris, need to go around smacking people up, but a little bit of authority and a little bit of fear does go some way, no?
Yeah, let me tell you, I come from a different era of policing than we've got at the moment, and yes, it was much more robust. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We don't carry guns. In my day, it was literally a small wooden truncheon, but we dealt with criminals as we had to do so, and the public expected that. I can tell you now, if the police officers started doing that now, we would have hell to pay with all the public coming out, and we'd have reporters shouting at the police officers. The police officers would be sacked, and we're living in a different world. And sometimes we've got to go back a stage in order to move forward, and we've got to bring that respect back into the world of young people in particular, but middle-aged and older people as well, that they do as they're told when they're told by the police.
Yep, sounds good to me. Chris, thanks for staying up, appreciate it, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. £33 billion a year crime is costing UK taxpayers. gbnews.com/your say. Let us know what you think about that. Still ahead on The Late Show Live, we'll take a look at what's making the headlines in tomorrow's newspapers, including The Express, which is reporting tax rises will result in higher food prices. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This was totally unacceptable. I will be making a statement in Parliament tomorrow. There will be a further and full investigation into how this happened.
Well, that was Deputy Prime Minister David. Was Deputy Prime Minister? No, is he Deputy PM now? Yeah, he is. Goodness me, David Lammy, Deputy PM. After an Epping hotel migrant was accidentally freed from prison. Of course, he was arrested last night. Yeah, don't worry, David Lammy's on the case. Let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages hitting the shelves in Blighty tomorrow, starting with the Metro. Worried Wes. Voters are in despair. Wes tweeting the Health Secretary saying that, I guess he's piling the pressure on Keir Starmer here after a week of woes, as the Metro describes it. Is Wes angling for a run at the leadership? Who knows? The Guardian. The NHS needs an extra £3 billion to avoid rationing care. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is warned. The Telegraph. Billions wasted in migrant hotel chaos. I mean, these front pages have a similar vibe, don't they, listeners and viewers? It's kind of like, I told you so. What do you expect? Uncontrolled mass migration? Oh, the NHS needs more money. Uncontrolled mass migration? Billions wasted in migrant hotel chaos. The Independent, on the front line with Zelensky's killer drone units. This is a piece about Ukraine's efforts to thwart Russia in the war. Will President Trump end up giving Ukraine those much-needed Tomahawk missiles? The Express tomorrow. Tax rises will result in higher food prices. This is supermarkets who have told Rachel Reeves ahead of the big budget next month that their tax rises on things such as national insurance, employer national insurance, inevitably will be passed on to already skint customers. And the Washington Post reports Chinese and US officials tentatively agree to avert 100% tariffs. Yeehaw for stocks and commodities. The market's going wild tomorrow. And the New York Times, something similar. gbnews.com/your say. Let us know your thoughts on that. Well, I'm joined now by comedian Adam Kumas, who is live down in our studio in Paddington in London. Adam, nice to see you. Should we talk about the Express tomorrow? Rachel Reeves warned by supermarkets that her policies are stitching up consumers. Who'd have thunk it, eh?
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. I think it's interesting, isn't it? I think like when you think about like when it comes to taxes and everything else, who should we protect? Like maybe the people who provide us our foods. And I think we've seen this with the attack on farmers, with the inheritance tax and things like that. I think it is scary, isn't it? I think like the one thing that we could tangibly feel as a populace if food prices increase, it's one of the few things you don't want to happen. I think it's quite concerning if this does take effect.
Yes, indeed. And, I mean, what can supermarkets do, really, other than pass on the cost? So you mentioned that, you know, attacking people who provide our food for the lefties, put the muesli on their table every morning, and I guess for the right, I don't know, the bacon and eggs, who knows, being a bit stereotypical. Right. Yeah. But they go after the farmers as well, Adam. That Labour go after the farmers with no second thought as to where they're going to get food from. What do you think is in Labour's minds when they do this to farmers and businesses?
It's short-sighted, isn't it? It's short-sighted. I mean, there is a phrase like "don't bite the hand that feeds you," and I think that seems to be exactly what's being happened. And like with regards to shoppers, I think, you know, I do have limited sympathy for people who maybe shop at M&S, even though I think M&S is a great business, because they could always, if things got really bad, they could go down a peg, couldn't they? They could go to Waitrose people could go to Tesco could go to Lidl. But if you're already at Lidl and you can't afford to shop, where do you go? Food banks? Like, you know, this is a concern.
Lidl's great. I used to love Lidl as a kid. When I remember being 14, 15, my mum would send me into school with my packed lunch in a Lidl plastic bag, and such was the reputation of Lidl at the time.
That's right.
I got bullied, Adam, for going to school with a Lidl plastic bag, but it was cheap at the time. That's all my family could afford.
That's right.
But how the tables have turned, years on. Lidl, one of the most popular supermarkets
now it's
in the
trendy.
UK.
That's
I'm going to bring my panel in now. Bob Weiner and Victoria Churchill. Bob, you were likening this situation with supermarkets and price rises to the tariffs here in the US, right? Just explain your rationale.
That's exactly right. As Ronald Reagan said, which is driving Trump nuts, and Doug Ford used in his ad in the World Series. Reagan said that tariffs bring higher prices, lost jobs, and economic collapse like the 29 and 30s economic crash in the United States. And that is what is going to happen. So he's like a first grader. He rails and he rants and then he slaps Canada with more tariffs because it's what he does in Brazil and Argentina. And now, by the way, he's hitting American cattlemen, and they're furious. And American soy farmers are furious at him because he's giving the money away to a foreign country instead of supporting their efforts.
Got it. But Victoria, at least, unlike our Labour government and Keir Starmer, who's whacking farmers with inheritance tax raids, at least Trump now, I think he's mooting a $20 billion bailout of US farmers. Yes, he's cleaning up his own mess from the tariffs,
he hasn't done it yet.
At least he's trying to look after them, no?
Well, I think you got to look at a couple points here. I think, as we've talked about even on this show before, there's a lot of red tape from governments, whether that's local, state, or national, that agricultural farmers and producers deal with here in the U.S. So I think there's a lot of things that can be fixed domestically to alleviate the burden on farmers without necessarily just giving a handout. And, you know, again, as much as I supporting U.S. businesses, it is, at the end of the day, a handout. It is a government bailout to a certain industry, although an important one. And so I think, again, if we cut red tape across different things like the meat packing plants and you know, I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I was in Kentucky recently with Rand Paul and Thomas Massey, two Republicans that the president doesn't like very much, but they were talking about how their producers in Kentucky, which is, you know, pretty far east, they have to send their meat to Nebraska to a meat packing plant, which is in the middle of the country, before it then can go to supermarkets that are basically just down the road from where these cows were slaughtered. And so, you know, again, there's, I think, a lot of things that can be done domestically to alleviate that burden, to bring those costs down here in the U.S. And, you know, again, I also think there should be a little bit more information to inform consumers about where their meat comes from. So I was actually talking to a senior member of the administration the other day, hopefully in an interview that'll come out soon in my work at the Daily Mail. But, you know, he was actually telling me that he would support country of origin labeling, which I know we talked about a couple weeks ago. So yeah,
again, just Adam. So in the US, I don't know if you know, there is on labelling in the UK, you know, it will say, oh, this beef has come from Belgium or whatever, or it's come from Scarborough. I don't know. In the US, that doesn't exist. Nobody knows where the meat comes from. Do you care where your meat comes from, Adam?
Absolutely. I think, first of all, I think that's crazy. It sounds very foreign to me. I think I wouldn't want to put anything in my body unless I knew where it had come from. I think that's very important to know. And we see this from meat, even from honey. So that's the thing that I've jumped into recently. A lot of honey that's not, if you can't single down the apiary where it is, a lot of honey that comes from outside the EU or from China is actually not actually honey at all. It's just sugar syrup. So it's important to know where our food comes from. It's just good. It's good practice.
Yeah, no, indeed. This is weird. It'll only relate to me and you. Viewers and listeners will think we're just talking nonsense. But I've been going down the honey grapevine, the rabbit hole down here as well, because you get unfiltered, pure organic honey. You get other honey, which is basically liquidated with cane sugar. Anyway, it's a very boring topic. But Adam, thank you for your company. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll catch up in the next hour or so. gbnews.com/your say. Let's see what you're saying, guys. Sad state of affairs. You said, Ben, don't forget the government is slapping warnings on breakfast cereal, yoghurt and fruit juice, labelling them as junk food. Yes, they are, because I think the yoghurt situation is because they're so full of sugar, basically. I think if you get normal Greek yoghurt, for example, Fage, other brands are available. I don't think that's going to be classed as junk food. Keep those comments coming in. Right, coming up on the Late Show Live, the UK's top psychiatrist says cannabis is not safe for developing brains. And this is pertinent to Washington, D.C., actually, because you cannot walk down the streets in Washington, D.C. without the smell of weed wafting through your vicinity. Apparently, new studies show that teens who smoke cannabis could face psychosis, anxiety and depression. Sounds like a life living under the Labour government. Back in just a tick on the Late Show Live.
Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live. Just some Your Say is coming in on gbnews.com/Your Say. Jackie, you said New Zealand Manuka honey, the most beneficial for you in the world. Do not buy cheap knockoffs. So, yeah, we've descended into honey chat. I am quite interested in honey. I think what's the strength indicator for Manuka? It's MGO, isn't it, I think? And talking of cannabis, Stuart, you said, excuse me whilst I light my spliff. Oh gosh, I've got to take a lick. I hope you're not in the UK, Stuart, because it's illegal. If you're in the USA, of course, they're perfectly legal. Right, a leading UK psychiatrist is issuing a serious warning tonight. Young people who smoke high-strength cannabis, aka skunk, may be smashing their brains and risking life-ruining psychotic episodes. So Dr. Lade Smith, who is the president of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, says a powerful cannabis lobby has created dangerous complacency about the drug's risks. Cannabis remains the most commonly used illegal drug in England and Wales, and I'd argue the world as well. But back in the US, this side of the pond, it's legal for recreational sale in 24 states, with more than half of adults, 54%, saying it should be legal for medicinal and recreational use. Bob Weiner, Victoria Churchill, you're back with me. Bob, you were just skinning up outside, weren't you? I saw you taking a puff outside the studio. Are you feeling the effects yet?
Well, I was the spokesman for the White House Drug Office and the House Narcotics Committee. 2/3 of arrestees in prison test positive for illegal drugs, and that's over and above alcohol. That's illegal drugs. And marijuana is dangerous, and it's, as you pointed out there, it's the most related to car accidents other than alcohol. It's number 2. And so for people to say that marijuana isn't dangerous, they're just dead wrong. And you know, unfortunately, politically in America, this is an interesting point, Ben. Democrats, my party, other than the drug czar, because they have that office, but are in denial. They will not go toward legalization, toward keeping marijuana illegal. They will support making it legal, because kids will not vote for a politician who supports making marijuana illegal.
Got it.
So it's a very dangerous situation. A number of governors have told me that.
I said last night, there's loads of studies showing cannabis has some great medicinal qualities, especially sort of pure THC oil and so on, but I never understood cannabis. I just don't get it. I think it's bad for kids whose brains are still growing, but it turns you into a lazy, unmotivated person. I don't see the attraction with it, but it's everywhere in DC, Victoria. It stinks. The whole city stinks of weed.
Yeah, you know, it definitely does stink, and I'm like you, Ben. I don't really get too much of the hype behind it, but I also don't know too many people that are going and smoking weed and then getting behind the wheel, so I'm not quite sure where Bob got his statistics there from.
Hospital emergency room statistics. We've studied them.
Well,
do you think cannabis is a gateway drug, Victoria?
I don't. My problem, I think, with it, the biggest problem is if people get it where it's laced with other things. I think that's kind of a red flag, particularly in those THC, well, those oil pens, which are supposed to be pure THC, but a lot of the time they stuff them full of filler, which actually the filler itself, at least from what I've seen and heard, is the thing that is actually addictive, not so much the THC itself.
Do you think it's a gateway drug, Bob?
It's just not a true story, what you're saying. And the National Institute on Drug Abuse will tell you that the compulsion factor of marijuana is very much the same as addiction to other drugs. And those are the studies that have come out. And
do you think it's a gateway drug?
It is a gateway drug in this sense, that no one who uses heroin or something similar has not smoked marijuana first, but that doesn't mean that the vast majority of marijuana users become heroin addicts. No, that's not true. But it is the number 2 cause of car crashes in the United States. So you can't say that it's not dangerous.
Yeah, as you said, I mean, the vast majority of cannabis smokers won't go on to do heroin, so I don't see how it's a gateway drug.
I had a big debate with Bill Maher. He said everybody uses sugar and milk too, so that's the counter argument.
Yeah. By the way, I've never seen any evidence that cannabis is a gateway drug either. Like, I've never seen a study. I've never seen any sort of
Well, you
decent
gotta
paper.
Google it. I mean, you do great Google research. You'll find that marijuana is involved with first use before other drugs.
But you could say the same thing about alcohol. You could say
Absolutely.
You could say every single fentanyl and skag user, heroin user in the United States has gone onto that through alcohol because they've all done alcohol.
The drug czar who I worked for 6 years in the White House, 4-star General Barry McCaffrey, says the most dangerous drug in America is alcohol. So you're right about that.
Yeah.
But two wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah, I'm not defending cannabis. I actually don't like it. I think it's a lazy drug and I think it's very unproductive. But I'm quite libertarian. I give people the right to smoke it if they want. My only thing is it just stinks everywhere. I mean, it doesn't smell that bad, I guess. But it's particularly, though, Victoria, for young minds, for growing minds. I remember back in high school, my friends would smoke cannabis. They'd be in the toilets throwing up. And over the years, you could see them descending into this kind of like sloth of a human being where they just wouldn't bother to do anything. And it's just, I don't think it's good for young minds.
No, I mean, I think there's lots of things that young people could spend their time doing, some of which are more productive, some of which are less productive. And I think that the marijuana usage is definitely on the less productive spectrum. I also don't really agree that it's a gateway drug, but I do think what it is a gateway for is on the ballot box. So I do think that you see states that have legalized marijuana, then they'll move towards legalization or at least decriminalization of other harder drugs.
Yeah,
so I'm not sure how much that parlays into actual usage, but I do think we have seen that in states. Oregon is one that comes to mind.
And they reversed. So you're right about that, but those states have learned their lesson and reversed.
Yeah, it's interesting in the UK, every single political party seems absolutely terrified to even talk about legalising cannabis, which is the complete polar opposite here in the United States. I suspect in about 10, 20 years, maybe sooner, that will change because it is a young vote winner, as Bob said. Right, more coming up in the next hour on The Late Show Live, including Beijing threatens Keir Starmer to back China's ownership of Taiwan or else. First, though, your latest weather update. It's getting a bit chilly in DC, in America. I think the same is coming for Great Britain. Back in just a sec. Here's the weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. During the wet day today, we'll see a mixture of sunshine and blustery showers across the UK. Those showers gradually starting to ease from the west, although at the expense of some rain arriving across Northern Ireland during the afternoon. So back to the detail for today, and we've got quite a keen northerly breeze blowing across the UK during the morning. Plenty of showers feeding down in that northerly breeze. And so the showers are starting to ease from the west into the afternoon, so mostly confined towards the north of Scotland and down eastern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. And then later in the day, outbreaks of rain do reach Northern Ireland, certainly by the early evening. Temperatures generally on the chilly side towards the north still at around about 8 or 9 degrees, peaking at 13 or 14 down towards the south and southwest. As we go into the latter stages of the day, we hold on to quite a few showers across the northeast of Scotland. Still quite a brisk breeze blowing here, but notice out towards the west and southwest, those outbreaks of rain starting to push in from off the Atlantic, and certainly a wet end to the day across Northern Ireland with some heavy bursts of rain in places here. Some rain also pushing across the Irish Sea into West Wales and westernmost counties of England, but elsewhere across central, southern and eastern parts of England, it's a fine end to the day with fairly clear skies in places. As we go into the evening, though, and through the overnight period, it will turn more unsettled across all parts. Those outbreaks of rain pushing east and southeastwards across all areas, so a pretty unsettled night to come. And we'll see some snow across the higher ground in Scotland. Cold enough here for a touch of frost as well by Tuesday morning. We'll see temperatures in rural spots down close to freezing, but holding up near at 9 or 10 degrees, so relatively mild there down towards the south and southwest of the UK. As for Tuesday, well, another unsettled day is in store. Low pressure dominating, giving further showers or longer spells of rain. I think the best of any sunshine between those showers will be down across parts of England and Wales, whereas again towards the north there, certainly across the highest ground in Scotland, still a bit of a wintry flavour to some of those outbreaks of rain with some snow across the mountains. Temperatures still quite chilly for the time of year, peaking at around about 7 to 10 in the north, up to 14 or 15 down towards the south. That's into the upper 50s in Fahrenheit.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tonight on The Late Show Live, President Trump is days away from signing a massive trade deal with China. Meanwhile, Rubio and Trump say China don't want Taiwan. So why then is China taking Britain to task over Taiwan? A tale of two stories. Hello, good evening to you. Tonight on The Late Show Live.
Drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, full of, you know, people that basically are anything
What's wrong
other
with that,
than
Sarah?
white.
Apology rejected. Reform UK's Sarah Pochin crucified by Labour over her comments about diversity in adverts, despite saying sorry. So why should anyone bother apologising at all these days? Also tonight.
This is the fifth meeting that I've had with my Chinese counterpart, the Vice Premier, Hu Lifeng, and we covered a wide range of issues, and I think we've reached a substantial framework.
Stocks up, commodities up, crypto up, it's green all across the board. President Trump will soon meet with China's Xi Jinping, where it's hoped the pair will finally sign the long-awaited trade deal. No more tariffs. Meanwhile, the Chinese, why are they threatening Britain unless we back down over Taiwan? Charming. We'll also be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers, hours before they hit the shelves back in Blighty. And of course, we're live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories America's talking about, including this one.
Is it fair to say, after the 2026 midterms, you're going to give it serious thought?
Yeah, I'd be lying.
First, Kamala Harris. Now, the California Governor Gavin Newsom is the latest contender to throw their hat into the ring for the 2028 presidential race, and we're only 10 months into this administration. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance leads polls for the Republicans, but the big question tonight, and indeed for the next 4 years, is who would be best for Britain? And
Going back to Honolulu just to get that Maui Wowie.
The dancing president, Bob Wiener's a massive fan. President Trump shows off his signature dance moves as he lands in Malaysia. I'm Ben Leo, this is The Late Show Live, and welcome along to the second hour, where the stories get hotter, the pace gets faster, and the brakes have been dropped. Do not go anywhere. Evening, thanks for your company. Breaking tonight, the United States and China are one step closer to securing the long-awaited trade agreement. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirms that a framework for a trade deal is in place, preventing a full-scale trade war.
I think we've reached a substantial framework for the two leaders who will meet in Korea next Thursday. So, on the table, the president had given me maximum leverage when he threatened 100% tariffs if the Chinese imposed their rare earth global export controls. So I think we have averted that.
As Scott Bessent said, President Trump threatened to impose an additional 100% tariff on Chinese goods after Beijing announced new measures to restrict rare earth exports. That proposal now, though, is off the table. Meanwhile, President Trump is on a 5-day diplomatic tour all across Asia and is scheduled to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday. This was the president earlier today.
The 8 wars that my administration has ended in just 8 months, there's never been anything like that. Never. There never will be either. I can't think of any president that ever solved one war. I don't think anybody. They start wars, they don't solve them. I shouldn't say it's a hobby because it's so much more serious than a hobby, but it's something that I'm good at, and it's something I love to do.
As President Trump secures peace and delivers major new trade deals, the same can't be said for our own leader, Sir Keir Starmer. China's pressuring the PM to publicly endorse Beijing's claim over Taiwan, and it's the latest in a series of controversies for Sir Keir Starmer, including, of course, the Chinese spy scandal and calls to halt the construction of that mysterious Chinese embassy in London. Nobody knows what's going on in that basement. The question remains, will Sir Keir Starmer stand firm or yield to Beijing's demands? And I'm joined now back in the studio by Bob Wiener and Victoria Churchill. Bob, why is President Trump saying China doesn't want Taiwan? Meanwhile, China are coming to the UK and Keir Starmer and saying, do not get involved in Taiwan, mind your own damn business. What's going on there?
It's been 30 years of this. Nobody can figure out how to handle China on Taiwan other than to let Taiwan have semi-autonomy. And Biden, as you know, said that he would defend Taiwan. Trump hasn't gone quite that far, but he said he would let things stand. And Starmer is doing kind of the same thing. He should do the same thing. He said, well, we're going to take a close look at it. I mean, that's about the answer you give in a situation like this. China wants to bully and own Taiwan, and the rest of the world doesn't want them to do it. So you got to stand firm somewhat. So you give credit then to President Trump for standing strong against Xi, yeah? Sure. But I also know that, by the way, it's a big deal. They're going to announce this great trade deal. Yeah, baby. Like he did in Trump. Stocks flying, commodities flying. By the way, this inside information, which you've given everybody, I'm going to go out and buy tomorrow. So yeah. Well, Nancy Pelosi, eat your heart out. Right. 200K salary, net worth of $70 million. But he's repeating Trump 1, just like he's going to repeat the NAFTA of Trump 1. He's just reinventing. If he would have stopped with the other 100 nations where it's by the seat of his pants and throwing tariffs against his enemies and that he doesn't like because he doesn't like their politics, or he does like their politics, and then he caves. I mean, the rest of his tariff policy is just willy-nilly, spontaneous nonsense, and everybody knows it. Victoria, what do you make of Trump's tariff policy?
What do I make of it? I mean, I tend to lean more on the free market side of things, so I think that tariffs overall, I'm not a huge fan, but I do think that if it encourages more domestic U.S. production or manufacturing, that the net benefit is going to, in the long term, be better, even though there might be temporary pain. And do you see the parallels between President Trump and Keir Starmer, where President Trump is standing firm against the likes of Xi Jinping, and Keir Starmer is basically threatened by Beijing, saying, don't you dare get involved in Taiwan, otherwise we're going to be sorting you out. I don't know what that means, economically, diplomatically, maybe they'll hack the NHS again, or goodness knows what. Yeah, I mean, I think Trump is definitely somebody to be reckoned with on the international stage, and I don't think you can say the same about Starmer. You know, just a couple weeks ago, we were on the show talking about the Gaza deal. Starmer tried to take credit for that, even though he had no involvement, or I guess members of Starmer's government did. And so, you know, I think that Starmer needs to be stronger for the benefit of Brits, because he cannot be run over by just completely adversarial nations. Because, I mean, the UK obviously has been around a lot longer than the US. The UK has a track record across many generations of being a strong nation, and I don't think it is much of that today.
Well, we used to rule the world, Bob Weiner. We used to have the British Empire. We sailed the seven seas. We claimed nations. We built technology and lifted the world up by its bootstraps. And now we get bullied around by China, and we can't stop rubber dinghies crossing the channel.
We love you guys. We're your friends. We're your allies. But I do want to throw this question out. What are we going to do, and what's everybody going to do when the Christmas buying season comes and stocks fall 5,000 points in the U.S. and drives the rest of the world in it too? It moves into a depression. What happens then? Everybody going to say the tariffs were great?
The tariffs were great. I mean, so why would that happen? Why?
You heard the Reagan quote. Have we played it?
We're trying to get the clip. We'll find that Reagan quote.
I mean, you know, it drives higher prices, lost jobs, economic collapse, parallel to that's how the U.S. fell into the Depression in 1929 and the 30s. Fareed Zakaria did a whole show on the U.S. tariff created the Depression from Smoot-Hawley. That's the same thing. And he made the point it was the same thing.
Is President Trump not using tariffs, though, as a bargaining tool, as a lever of power, as a threat?
He is taking money from American consumers, that entire surplus that he's creating, giving $40 billion to Argentina from. That's from tariffs from the consumers' pockets in the United States, directly from them.
I want to play this clip of President Trump talking about China and Taiwan. President Trump reckons China doesn't want Taiwan. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, President, your Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, in his Shangri-La speech in, I think it was May, warned about the potential likelihood or threat of President Xi ordering an invasion of Taiwan.
I think we'll be just fine with China. China doesn't want to do that. First of all, the United States is the strongest military power in the world by far. It's not even close. Not even close. We have the best equipment. We have the best of everything, and nobody's going to mess with that.
Yeah, damn right they're the strongest. They just ordered, I think, 112 more B-2 bombers, Bob. Do you not take pride in President Trump when he says he goes to Israel, well, J.D. Vance goes to Israel and says, you guys aren't annexing the West Bank, by the way, just FYI, you know, behave yourselves. And it's likewise to China. You're not having Taiwan. They're not interested. Do you not have pride that you've got some strength and might on the world stage?
Democrats are united in crediting Trump for the incredible job he did in bringing the hostages home, and hopefully he will use that pressure to continue the ceasefire and the peace to continue. So yes, he didn't build this military, but the fact that the military built the military, and every president has supported building the military, I am waiting for him to say okay to the Tomahawks to Ukraine.
Yeah.
I am waiting for that. He talks around it. He says we're going to let them use long-range missiles, and then we're glad that Ukraine has the drones, which, by the way, are very effective, and all of that. But he should do what Roosevelt did with Lend-Lease, which Claude Pepper helped engineer, who I worked for Claude Pepper, by the way, but helped engineer in terms of giving the weapons or selling the weapons to our allies and having them give them to Ukraine if you want it to be European-based. He absolutely should do that. And the Wall Street Journal had an editorial saying, Trump, get the Tomahawks to Ukraine.
Yeah, maybe he will. I think he wants it ended. If not, I think I assume, I obviously don't speak for President Trump whatsoever at all, but I assume he's probably wearing short of patience with Putin. Are you proud? No, that's not the question. The question for you, Victoria, is President Trump the strongest America's ever had?
I don't know if you can go with strongest ever. I think part of Trump's strength is deterrence. You know, again, I still think he is the only president that has not started any new wars, and that is something that I definitely commend him for. And so, you know, I think strength in leadership of tough times, you know, somebody like an Eisenhower, for example, right, might be more of that, you know, strongest ever category. But I do think he's doing a very good job, and, you know, I want to piggyback off something that Bob was saying. Trump definitely didn't build this military, but I do think the military is returning to greater heights and back to where it should be, in my view, under the Trump era, because they are getting rid of the woke and the DEI, and there are more applications than ever, not only to serve in the armed services, but also to serve in police forces, to serve in, things like the Border Patrol. And so, I do think having Trump and Hegseth is encouraging more people to be involved in the military when the U.S. hasn't really met recruitment goals in the few years before the Trump administration.
Yeah, Bob.
Well, the stone-faced military, when they gave their speeches, because he's asking them to do things that are unconstitutional. But let's stay away from that for a minute. No new wars. Venezuela and
Colombia.
Colombia.
The pride flags from their desk.
Venezuela and Colombia. Check in 2 weeks if we have no new wars. I think we're going to.
You think they want to overthrow Maduro?
Yes, and I think in Colombia also. Even though, by the way, McCaffrey, my boss in the White House, created Plan Colombia, and they cut cocaine and they cut crack by 2/3, cocaine by half. Even though the drug policy has been enormously successful in giving money to Colombia to stop the use of drugs and to do the alternate crops.
Sorry, Bob. How's it been successful when you've got 100,000 drug deaths a year in the United States? You've got cocaine. I mean, what's been successful about the US's drug policy in recent years?
That's fentanyl, the 100,000. It was like 20 and 30,000, by the way, before. But they have, as I said, the Washington Post even conceded that Plan Colombia was successful. It cut cocaine by 2/3 and crack by half, and crack by 2/3, because the Colombians developed alternative economies, and we were giving them the money and supporting the Colombian military to do that. It was a successful policy.
If you think any nation in the West, across the world, has won the war on drugs,
I didn't say won. I said successful.
Or even made any dent at all in the war on drugs, I think you're.
Okay, if you cut hunger or if you cut cancer by half, would you call it successful? Yes. Okay. So that's the point. It takes a lot of work on the war on drugs. It takes education, prevention, rehabilitation, foreign policy, law enforcement. It takes all of that. But in the meantime, it has been a successful effort in terms, and that's why the Congress has not legalized drugs.
The equivalence with cutting cancer is that would be a permanent thing, whereas the war on drugs, people just pop up again all over the shop. So you've got cocaine plants, you've got cannabis plants, whatever your drug is. They just keep popping up like whack-a-moles. Whereas if you're going to compare it to, say, cutting cancer by half, I guess that's a permanent thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you can ever stop the war on drugs.
No,
also,
I agree with that.
Last question. Sorry, Victoria. I'm going to you. Sorry. Why would the United States be blowing up Venezuelan drug boats if they weren't sure that they were drug traffickers?
Well, I want to say, obviously I think Congress is the body that has to declare war, particularly Foreign Relations Committee. I've covered Foreign Relations Committee. Just most recently, I was in a hearing the other day, and I think, there's actually probably more bipartisan collaboration on foreign relations than I think on just about any other committee. And I really think that's the way that it should be, moving forward. And so I think that the White House can put pressure on Congress to declare an act of war. But again, I still think that Trump would like to keep his record of not starting any new wars. And so, I personally haven't seen that evidence, but again, I'm not on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I'm not on the Senate Intel Committee. If he is giving those individuals, those members of Congress that are elected by the people, that evidence to back his actions, then I think it's fair.
Why does everyone care so much about drug traffickers being blown up?
Because they are the source of the crime. 2/3 of all prison arrestees test positive for illegal drugs. They are causing the bulk of the deaths through crime in America. But by the way, bipartisan, I got to make a correction here. The Senate bill just passed 24-0 out of the Senate Finance and Housing Committee. 24-0, a housing bill that's about $5 billion of housing, and actually is a very good step in Congress, bipartisan. And now we've got to get that to go through the House as well. But it just passed out of the Senate committee, 24-0.
What are we talking about now? Housing?
Yes, because she said there was no bipartisan success in Congress.
No, I'm saying foreign relations is one of the areas that is one of the most bipartisan collaboration.
Okay, gbnews.com/your say. My point was, Bob, why does anyone care that drug traffickers are being blown up?
I gave you the answer. And by the way, I'm not against what Trump's doing.
Why are the left going after President Trump and the administration saying, oh, these drug traffickers haven't been given due process in the courts? Why does anyone care?
We want the evidence that they are actually drug traffickers, and there are other strategies of interdiction. Why not just go surround the boat, capture them, and interrogate the guys instead of sending them back to other countries?
Well, you can see it from the drone footage. They've got wraps of white powder wrapped in cling film with about 2 different or 3 engines on the boat with loads of fuel. I mean, what else are they doing?
I don't quarrel with that. I'm one of the people that I heard for drug czar McCaffrey today, and he said it's not a bad thing to go after the drug traffickers if that's what they're really doing, and we have to make sure that that's exactly what they're doing. I don't have a problem with that. Every administration wants to say we've had the biggest drug bust possible. This is Trump's strategy of getting a big drug bust. He's doing doing it on the high seas.
Okie doke. Thank you very much. Still ahead on the Late Show Live.
I am not done. I have lived my entire career a life of service, and it's in my bones.
Now, I'm not casting aspersions, but talking of drugs, I don't know what Kamala Harris has been smoking, because she has hinted that she could run again for president in 2028 and insists she's not done with politics. And by the way, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a shorter chance to be the Democratic nominee than Kamala Harris, but she still thinks she's got a chance. Anyway, we'll take a look at who else is up for the top job as well from the Republican side. This is the Late Show Live, only on GB News. Right, not even a year into President Trump's second term, and the runners and riders for 2028 are already being banded around. I told you last night what Kamala Harris had to say about a second crack.
I am not done. I have lived my entire career a life of service, and it's in my bones.
Democratic colleague Gavin Newsom of California fame, great state, shame about the likes of San Francisco, has also thrown his hat into the ring.
I'm looking forward to who presents themselves in 2028 and who meets that moment. And that's the question for the American people.
Is it fair to say, after the 2026 midterms, you're going to give it serious thought?
Yeah, I'd be lying.
So genuine, so authentic, isn't he? Gavin Newsom, you just get that vibe from him. Who may they be up against from the Republican side? Well, a new poll today shows Eric Trump, President Trump's son, is right up there with the likes of Vice President J.D. Vance, who of course is considered the obvious heir to President Trump's MAGA throne. This is what Vance had to say about the prospects previously.
I really think the American people are so fed up with folks who are already running for the next job 7 months into the current one. There are a lot of great people. I think if I do end up running, it's not going to be given to me either on the Republican side or on the national side. So I'm just going to keep on working hard. I think this is the most important job that I've ever had. It may be the most important job I ever have outside of being a father to those 3 beautiful kids. So I'm going to try to do my best job. And I think if I do that, the politics will figure it out.
You reckon at home, viewers, listeners, would be the best for Britain out of, well, that cohort and maybe anybody else? Who'd uphold the special relationship and give us a guiding hand back to sanity and cohesion? Well, let's get the take now of Democratic strategist and 2024 DNC delegate for Kamala Harris, Kaivan Shroff. Kaivan, thank you for your company. First of all, what do you make of Kamala's interview with the BBC the other night saying that she's not finished? I mean, I went on the streets of DC yesterday and that proposition, even by the likes of DC natives, was scoffed at.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't think it's too unexpected. I think, you know, these are creatures of habits, these political folks, and they are inclined to run and run and run. At the same time, I think she's taken a different tactic than many people expected. I certainly even expected her to throw her hat in the ring for the California governor's race. That would have given her an opportunity to show leadership, to reset her brand, and instead she's done a media-heavy tour. And look, I mean, it is early days. We don't know how things are going to shape up over the next year and a half, which is when things will really start to heat up. And it's interesting to note that, you know, Trump had a really strong start to 2024, but now he's facing a lot of scrutiny, a lot of bad storylines. So will she be able to leverage the idea that she warned people about a lot of these moves?
Who else then? If not Kamala, who else? I mean, Gavin Newsom's the obvious pick. Are we going to see Gavin Newsom, J.D. Vance in 28?
I think we'll certainly see Gavin Newsom running, and the idea that he's going to hold off till 2026. I mean, this guy's been running for president since 2024. I think it's fair to say he'll definitely be a contender, and I think we'll see the governor of Chicago, Pritzker, throw his hat in the ring. It's interesting to see, you know, Trump targets these American citizens, and it really raises their profile on the national stage. And he's certainly done that with the governor of Chicago, who's a billionaire in his own right, who's stood up to Trump on trying to invade the city with the National Guard, and federal courts have said Trump is wrong on that issue. So it is interesting to see that evolution. I think we'll also see some strong candidates like Wes Moore might throw his hat in the ring. What will happen is there have to be a few key wins, right? So in a couple days, we're going to have a vote in California on Prop 50. That's big stakes for Gavin Newsom. He better make sure that passes on redistricting in the state, or it'll be an early loss and an early sign that he actually tried to stand up to Trump and fail. Of course, if it's successful, it'll show the opposite.
I guess it depends on who's in government at the time in the UK. You know, maybe it'll be Reform UK. They're leading every poll for the past 10 months. Maybe it'll be Nigel Farage. But who would be the best American president for Britain in 2028? J.D. Vance? Would it be Governor Gavin Newsom? Who do you think would hold our hand, as I described it, and guide us back to a path of sanity and cohesion?
Well, I mean, we've seen Trump has no respect for the special relationship. He's trashed that relationship, and he's ignored many of our allies. So I think Democrats tend to be more open to global partnership. At the same time, J.D. Vance as a candidate, you know, I think you ask people and intuitively they just tell you the name of the vice president. That sounds like somebody who's in the wings, but he's very unpopular. He doesn't really have the charisma that Donald Trump has to lead the MAGA movement, and he's trying really hard to take it over, but, you know, he can't even stand. He talks about his 3 kids and his wife. He won't stand up for them against viciously racist anti-Indian attacks from his own base, and I think that will be a major tension point for him going forward, how to navigate that. So far, it seems like he's willing to roll over, won't speak on behalf of his wife, won't stand up for her. It makes him look very weak, and that's a conversation that's been focused on in national media here, at least in recent days.
I mean, there was some comments from, I forgot who it was. Maybe it was some left-leaning media person on The View who said that J.D. Vance's wife should get away from him or something. I can't remember the exact quote. Something like she should be saved from J.D. Vance. He came out and defended Usha on that occasion. And to be honest, I don't think it's worth his time and energy addressing the small amount of racists who really aren't part of that MAGA movement. They're an extreme right sect.
No, actually, that's just not true.
Right?
You know, we have Vivek Ramaswamy running for office in Ohio. He simply posted celebrating Diwali, and you can see from the MAGA base just the thousands of racist comments there from Trump supporters and from those who have voted for this White House. So it's really not a small group of people. It's really the predominant view, as we're seeing, by the way, in these leaked chats from Republican officials in the Trump office, Republican appointees in the Trump office, and Republican young leaders across the country talking about Nazism and gas chambers, celebrating some pretty vicious racism, making fun of Indians, Chinese people, black people. So this really is the ethos of the Trump administration and MAGA.
Well, you can't say that some young Republicans from a leaked WhatsApp are.
They're in they're in the administration. That's people keep calling them a young Republican.
In the Oval Office. One second. In the Oval Office, Trump just held a Diwali celebration full of Indians and people of all backgrounds. So you can't say that some stupid idiots from a Republican WhatsApp.
But his employee, it's not a stupid idiot though. It's not a stupid idiot in some college club.
Well,
These are
they're racist,
actual
stupid idiots.
officials and people that are in his administration that were part of this chat.
Well, you get idiots on both sides. You get morons from the Democrat side who are calling for deaths of people, who calling people Hitler and so on. Like you had it with UKIP back in the day in the UK. You'd always get a select branch of idiots, but
it's
that
not
doesn't
select.
reflect the
It's
Trump
pretty much
administration.
every week there's a new scandal for Republicans about somebody talking about Nazism or extreme racism. You can just look it up.
Okay, let's bring in the panel now. Bob Weiner, Democrat Party strategist and the Daily Mail's US political reporter, Victoria Churchill. Kaivan, somebody said on gbnews.com/your say, it was Ralph actually, they said, what bad stories on Trump are you referring to? He's winning all the time. Ben, wake up. I guess you're talking about the criticism over what, ICE raids and so on and tariffs. What are you referring to exactly?
The government shut down. The government shut down as he's building a $230 million ballroom that he doesn't have the legal basis to do so. He's torn down our East Wing. As you have federal people, federal workers standing in food lines. So that side by side is not playing well over here. And people are blaming Republicans by a large margin for this shutdown, which is expected to be the longest shutdown in American history. And of course, we have Donald Trump and Republicans saying in 2021 that this should fall on the president when Joe Biden was president, and it's falling on the president now, which is Donald Trump.
quick, the ballroom, the shutdown, of course, Trump is saying, look, and
of
Vance
course
yesterday, I
Epstein.
think, saying, if the Democrats want to come to the table and stop proposing trillions of unnecessary funding, then the government shutdown will end. No? And also the ballroom as well.
Not true, though. He's not really willing to meet with them.
Yeah, that ballroom is being funded, at least as far as I know, entirely by donor money. And actually, it's interesting to compare that with another renovation that was done in the Obama administration that was, I believe, $375 million of actual taxpayer dollars versus Trump's is privately funded. Also on the note of the shutdown, at least as far as I'm aware, I think that's squarely in the hands of the Democrats, particularly the Democrats in the U.S. Senate.
Then you're not aware.
Because there are actually 3 Democrats that have sided with Republicans to open the government. Or I guess 2 Democrats and 1 independent. And, obviously Fetterman of Pennsylvania, I believe it's Cortez Masto of Nevada, and then Angus King of Maine were 3 Democrats that actually voted to open up the government. But of course, you need it to peel a few more of those off. Just to underscore the fact that this is definitely caused by the Democrats, the Democrat House Minority Whip Catherine Clark was on video in an interview with Fox News just the other week saying that she knows that people across America are hurting. However, her party realizes that they can use these poor individuals as leverage, and so they are going to keep this going as long as they can. Those are her words directly, not mine.
It's not that cynical. First of all, Rand Paul, of course, is a no vote to what the Republicans are trying to do on the shutdown. And Trump's poll numbers now are at the lowest ever, 37. Among Hispanics, they've crashed from 44 to 25. So he is losing big time. So I appreciate
there was a Reuters Ipsos poll that came out 2 days ago showing his approval ratings just ticked up to about, was it 44 or something?
Well, we're talking about polling. 49% of Americans, per a YouGov Economist poll earlier this month, say 49% of them say that the shutdown is having absolutely 0 impact on them at all.
It's not true for the off-year elections.
That means 51%
and Jeffries
left
is quoting
to
the
be
poll
pissed
showing
off.
a 7-point gain for the Democrats.
Cliven, just let's talk about the ballroom, because there was a few things you mentioned. I mean, the ballroom is a massive story this side of the pond, of course. It's the argument is that he's tearing down a slice of history. There's no authority or planning behind it. But the truth of the matter is, isn't it, that this isn't some ancient part. It's not Westminster Abbey. It's a pretty shoddy part of the east wing of the White House, which was redeveloped in the 40s. So it's not that ancient.
That might be the UK view, but domestically it is a part of history. It's very important, and frankly, they lied about it, and that's another aspect of this. They said they wouldn't be tearing down anything, and they've torn down the entire East Wing to put up a hideous-looking ballroom, which, by the way, you can claim all these donors are going to pay for it. Unclear. I mean, just taking the administration's word for it doesn't really go very far, but certainly donors won't be paying for the maintenance and the extreme cost to staff this and clean it and have the upkeep, and the price tag keeps going up and up and up and up. So there hasn't been any clarity on who's actually funding this, and that's just a talking point.
I mean, I guess the pushback is Americans aren't paying for it as donors, and would you not prefer a nice brand new
ballroom? But you're not listening.
You're not listening.
Americans will be paying for it.
What, for the heating and the maintenance?
Well, every year it's going to cost millions of dollars to staff, to upkeep, to use this ballroom.
And the conflicts with those donors. That's a big deal. The conflicts with those donors.
Yeah, obviously, if you build a new building, you're going to have to pay for the lights and the electricity and staff, whatever. But as an American, look, mate, I don't know, man, I'm a Brit commenting from afar, but would you not prefer a brand new ballroom to welcome world leaders as opposed to some shoddy tent which blows around in the wind?
White House. By the way, you have to laugh. These are the same people that were
1940s, Cliven, isn't historic, let me tell you.
Confederate statues being taken down, and they were sobbing and crying, and they couldn't get over it. And our literal White House is being wrecked by a wrecking ball, and they have not a word to say. It's laughable.
Cliven, I'm redeveloping my house in the UK as the 1930s. We do not consider that historic or ancient or anything particularly to conserve. It's a 1930s house. It doesn't look good.
You
it's being
don't
redeveloped.
in the UK.
It's being knocked down.
But you're in the UK. We're talking about the United States of America. I don't know if you realize that.
Cliven,
yeah.
what's your take on this? So the Washington Post editorial board put out an editorial yesterday defending the Trump White House ballroom erection innovation. They quote they're saying privately, many alumni of the Biden and Obama White Houses acknowledge the long overdue need for an event space like what Trump is creating. Do you think these Biden and Obama alumni are not to be believed?
They're not being named, right? Because they're an anonymous opinion piece by a billionaire right-wing supporter of Donald Trump's paper. So I don't think anyone puts a lot of stock or credibility into that at all.
As in all things, the question is transparency. Who are they, and what oversight will there be of the conflicts and how the contributions were made?
Yep. No, that's a fair point. It's a pertinent point.
It sounds like a
Clive,
mechanism to funnel bribes.
No, I mean, they'd of course deny that. But Clive, and just finally, you had the likes of Chelsea Clinton, Hillary Clinton firing off tweets saying they're disgracing the integrity of the White House and so on. I mean, coming from Clintons, Bill Clinton receiving oral sex many, many times in that White House.
Was that a contribution?
Hunter Biden leaving bags of coke around the West Wing.
The history of the structure?
Yeah, it does, because you're talking about the integrity of...
Because you don't have a strong defense.
You're talking, well, let me say again, that East Wing built in the 1940s, it's not historic, even if you're American.
We get it. Keep repeating the same talking point. Are they saying that in your ear?
No, very funny. But I'm just saying, if you want to talk about the integrity of keeping your amazing White House a safe space for history and conduct and, you know, presidency on the world stage, A, don't get a Democrat president getting oral sex in the Oval Office.
It's a pretty sad talking
B, don't
point.
get the other
They've torn
Democrat
down the building
president's
and you're
son
going back 30 years to talk about an event that happened in the White House. It pretty much shows you have no argument.
Yeah. All right, Clive, nice sparring with you. Thank you for your company, and hopefully we'll speak again fairly soon. That's Clive Stroff, former DNC delegate for Kamala Harris. Right, gbnews.com/your say. That was fun, wasn't it, Bob?
Well,
it was for me.
Yeah,
right, still ahead.
I did not like his use of some of the examples that he used, but that's...
All right, still ahead on the Late Show Live. Get an exclusive first look at tomorrow's front pages before they hit the shelves, including the Daily Telegraph, who reports billions of dollars have been wasted on Labour's migrant hotel chaos. Really? Who could have guessed that we'd be wasting billions of pounds on people who shouldn't be in the UK in the first place? I think that's the least of our problems. It's a national security threat. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. During the wet day today, we'll see a mixture of sunshine and blustery showers across the UK. Those showers gradually starting to ease from the west, although at the expense of some rain arriving across Northern Ireland during the afternoon. So back to the detail for today, and we've got quite a keen northerly breeze blowing across the UK during the morning. Plenty of showers feeding down in that northerly breeze. As I say, the showers are starting to ease from the west into the afternoon, so mostly confined towards the north of Scotland and down eastern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. And then later in the day, outbreaks of rain do reach Northern Ireland, certainly by the early evening. Temperatures generally on the chilly side towards the north still at around about 8 or 9 degrees, peaking at 13 or 14 down towards the south and southwest. As we go into the latter stages of the day, we hold on to quite a few showers across the northeast of Scotland. Still quite a brisk breeze blowing here, but notice out towards the west and southwest, those outbreaks of rain starting to push in from off the Atlantic, and certainly a wet end to the day across Northern Ireland with some heavy bursts of rain in places here. Some rain also pushing across the Irish Sea into West Wales and westernmost counties of England, but elsewhere across central, southern and eastern parts of England, it's a fine end to the day with fairly clear skies in places. As we go into the evening though, and through the overnight period, it will turn more unsettled across all parts. Those outbreaks of rain pushing east and southeastwards across all areas, so a pretty unsettled night to come. And we'll see some snow across the high ground in Scotland. Cold enough here for a touch of frost as well by Tuesday morning. We'll see temperatures in rural spots down close to freezing, but holding up near at 9 or 10 degrees, so relatively mild there down towards the south and southwest of the UK. As for Tuesday, well, another unsettled day's in store. Low pressure dominating, giving further showers or longer spells of rain. I think the best of any sunshine between those showers will be down across parts of England and Wales, whereas again towards the north there, certainly across the highest ground in Scotland, still a bit of a wintry flavour to some of those outbreaks of rain with some snow across the mountains. Temperatures still quite chilly for the time of year, peaking at around about 7 to 10 in the north, up to 14 or 15 down towards the south. That's into the upper 50s in Fahrenheit.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Ben Leo. Let's look at the newspaper front pages hitting the shelves in Blighty tomorrow. Starting with the Daily Telegraph, billions wasted in migrant hotel chaos. I mean, again, I've said before, really, is this, I suppose it is a news story, but it's just not surprising. Home Office failings allowed firms to reap excessive profits from the taxpayer, says reports. Yeah, and also government failings are also allowing the likes of Serco and landlords to pocket record profits from the taxpayer as well. You know, you're giving landlords 5 years up front, all expenses paid, all maintenance sorted out, all bills, to shove 5, 6, 7 migrants into an HMO in what was a nice, quiet, leafy residential street. It's no surprise. I mean, taxpayers, British people, they're being stitched up left, right and centre. The Guardian. NHS needs an extra $3 billion to avoid rationing care, according to, well, that's Rachel Reeves. She's been warned. Again, not a surprise. When you have a population explosion of 10 million over 20 years, who'd have thought the NHS is going to struggle? Not fit for purpose. The Independent, on the front line with Zelensky's killer drone units. The Eye reports that Number 10 is in talks to water down one-day workers' rights amid new growth warnings. Little picture of Arsenal up the top there. I think they won 1-0 today, top of the league. Very good. The Sun, 2 pads Andy, continuing the saga of Prince Andrew. Prince is demanding both Will's and Harry's ex-homes to quit the Royal Lodge. I think he wants to go to Frogmore Cottage, the former home of Harry and Meghan. And apparently, Andrew has told his brother, the King, he needs one for him and one for Fergie. And the Washington Post reports Chinese and US officials tentatively agree to avert 100% tariffs. President Trump, of course, meeting the Chinese premier on Thursday, where they're expected to sign a massive trade deal. gbnews.com/your say. Lots of you getting in touch about that sparring match with Kai Van Schroff just there, talking about the West Wing and so on. Jason, you've said, I'm watching The Late Show live. Good evening, Jason. I don't know who that guest was or who invited him on, but oh my goodness, what a condescending so-and-so. Jay, you've said, what an arrogant, smug so-and-so he was. And someone else said, yeah, pretty much similar. I love debates like that. I like when we have left-leaning guests who want to have a debate and a bit of a row about things. That is my 100% perfect scenario. I don't want to sit here, Bob and Victoria, living in an echo chamber, repeating catchphrases and buzzwords and talking to myself or guests who agree with me. I want that kind of debate.
I'll remember to debate you more.
Yeah. Yeah, be a bit nasty, Bob. Get a bit spicy. Give me a jab in the jaw if you feel like it. Right, let's get the thoughts now of comedian Adam Kumas, who's back home in London with the front pages. Adam, what would you like to talk about, my friend? What's tickled your fancy on the front pages?
Again, I know it's no surprise, but I'd like to talk about the billions wasted in migrant hotel chaos, just because I think it really just rings true, and I think this is what most people are going to be sort of feeling in terms of where their taxes are going. And you know, with Rachel Reeves sort of saying that taxes could be, going to be going up, I think a lot of people are going to be very frustrated, and I think that we need to give as much light and attention on this as possible.
Yeah. So what's the figure? There's 10-year contracts have tripled for migrant hotels from £4.5 billion a year to what, 15 billion?
Yeah, 15.3. Yes. So this is to me, it's just one of those things where, like, I don't think this is malicious, but it is government inefficiency, it is laziness, it is carelessness. But as you can see, it has huge ramifications, doesn't it? We're talking about, Rachel Reeves said there was an expected £3 billion gap to save the NHS. I mean, that could have easily come from this money, this overspending and this careless spending.
What do you reckon, Adam, we should do with illegal migrants? So if not hotels, if not spending billions on hotel accommodation, what should be done if Adam Kumas was Prime Minister in 2028?
Well, honestly, it's always baffling to me, the fact that we've got people coming in on rubber dinghies and we can't seem to sort of control our borders, I guess, in some way, some sense or another. I think we've got some weird, unless we're patrolling the French land, I don't know how we're going to stop people from getting in the boats and coming over. But it should be a simple case of if you have come here illegally and you're not supposed to be here, and you are either a criminal or something like that, we should be picking you up and putting you somewhere which isn't in the UK, which isn't mingling amongst other people, amongst taxpayers, amongst British citizens, purely because you are going to be a threat if we don't know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, that's surely common sense, which our government, for some reason, doesn't seem to quite grasp. Bob Wiener's here, Victoria Churchill's here again. Bob, can I ask you, please, what should Britain do about rubber dinghies coming over the Channel?
Well, close your borders. That's the lesson that Democrats have learned.
Obviously, it's common sense for normal people.
Do you have
but how
surveillance? Do you have surveillance? I mean, you got to have surveillance.
No, we know they're coming. We go and pick them up, Bob. With our authorities travel halfway across to France, pick them up and put them in RNNI boats.
Yeah,
and
I'm not going to recommend to you that you shoot them like Trump's doing. So.
Well, no, don't do that. No, of course.
I mean, I guess if they get over here, you have to ask them why they're here. Are they asking for asylum? I mean, you have to go through a little process.
Well, yeah, they're all asking for asylum.
Yeah, well,
but they are fake asylum seekers.
Well, then they get most asylum seekers by us too get thrown back out.
Yeah, so why can't we do it? I mean, that's just the age-old question. Victoria, it's such a simple premise. Why can't we stop rubber dinghies coming from the French equivalent of Tesco coming across the channel into Britain?
Yeah, you know, I think the UK should take a leaf out of Trump's book on this one. He has almost stopped illegal immigration. Almost. The illegal border crossings that we're seeing here in the UK, or in the US, excuse me, are down significantly. But, you know, I think that's also notable here is that actually these hotels, that's not the be-all, end-all. I've got a story up here from one of my UK colleagues for the Daily Mail talking about that another 40,000 people are set to be given homes in London, southern England, east of England, as Labour attempts to close migrant hotels across the country. So if you see that migrant hotel number go down, see if they are actually being permanently housed, because the headline on this piece reads that asylum seekers will be housed by 90% of councils by the end of the year, per the Home Office.
Yeah, and it was Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, who said before the election last year, every borough in Great Britain will be taking their fair share of migrants, and I guess Labour are intent on seeing that through. Bob Weiner, should we be putting migrants in hotels, 3-4-star hotels, at courtesy of the taxpayer?
Well, I think New York puts them in like barely 1-star motels. I think they don't need the great hotels. No, they shouldn't be in great hotels. No.
Where should they go? These fake asylum
go to your
seekers?
lower rated tourist places if the government wants to pay for that. But in the meantime, you better do quick trials and send them home if they deserve to go home.
What about detention centres? Big, massive tents, detention centres.
Well,
no leaving the detention centre, no bus passes, no NHS dentistry, no spending money on a card for you to go down to Braintree Town Centre.
You really are trying to take a leaf out of Trump's book on this one, aren't you?
But do you think that sounds harsh, Bob?
If you can get them legitimate residences, then you get them legitimate residences. I would do that before you put them in tents and 75 people in a 25-person room and one toilet as their water. I mean, that's what you...
Adam, what should we do? Hotels, detention centres? I mean, what's the humane thing here?
Something... I think you need to look at whether it's the hotels, detention centres, or a plan like we had with Rwanda and just go, what's going to be the biggest deterrent? And I think Rwanda was... I think it was a good idea, but it was poorly executed, or maybe you could argue they didn't have enough time to execute it. But I think there was at least an ethos saying, right, we're not going to. If you are coming here illegally and you're not following things by the book, we are literally going to just move you to somewhere else. And I think that would have been a good idea had it gone through, but it was poorly executed, as you know, the government always does.
Glynis has said on gbnews.com/yoursay, and actually, Glynis, I've been suggesting this the past couple of weeks. Glynis, you've said, Ben, if only we had an island far, far away where they could be processed. Somewhere like the Chagos Islands, perhaps. We've got Ascension Island, we've got lots of other islands as well. I guess it comes down, Victoria, to, and I hate this term, but I say it all the time, and my mates rib me for it, but it comes down to political will. Who's in the White House? Who's in number 10? Who wants to get the job done?
Yeah, you know, absolutely. Again, I was criticizing Keir Starmer earlier for not having more of a backbone, and I think this is an issue that he should have a backbone on, because actually other members of the Labour Party have complained against the migrants. So I don't actually think this would hurt him too much politically. I mean, I think he's already hurt on a number of other things. So why not just go out there and do it?
Yeah. Adam, thanks for your time, mate. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch up soon, hopefully. Thanks for going through the front pages. Let's move on to a story, Victoria, that you are top scoop getter, you international journalist extraordinaire, you've delivered to the Mail Online. A British man has been detained by American immigration officials for his support of terrorism. It's a chap called Sami Hamdi, who describes himself on X as a commentator on Middle East and North Africa issues and an advisor to companies and stakeholders, as well as the managing director at the International interest, the international interest, which is I think it's a lobby group. The Department of Homeland Security spokeswoman, Tricia McLaughlin, said that Hamdi's visa was revoked and he is in ICE custody pending removal. So this is a British guy who's been busted by the good workers at ICE. Explain, Victoria, what's going on here? He's a British guy. What's he been up to? Why is he such a problem?
Well, he's been up to, I think, what can only be described as rabble-rousing. You know, I think he's basically been borderline, if not entirely, training people that are supposed to be militant Islamic jihadists here on U.S. soil. And I think that the Trump administration is very right saying that this is not okay. And another thing that I want to point out here is that some of the voices on X, even groups like CARE, the Center for American Islamic Relations, they've classified him as a journalist. I don't think anything that he can do classifies as a journalist. I mean, in his own X bio, it lists him as a managing director. I don't know any journalists that have the title of managing director in their bio. And, you know, I think he's a commentator, sure. You know, I think you guys use the term broadcaster, which I think when it's translated and taken into the U.S. can be spun as journalists, so maybe that's where they're getting it from. But you know, he's a commentator, he's a consultant, but he's not a journalist, and that's why I think part of the left-wing media that is spinning this story and actually not looking at the facts is that this guy's an agitator. He's here to cause trouble, and he's going to get sent back. But the question is, what will Shabana Mahmood and the Home Office do to him?
Oh, hang on a minute. So he's being sent back to the UK?
Well, he's being detained. He's from the UK. So really? I think that's where they would put him.
Great. Can't you just keep him, Bob?
We couldn't keep Abrego Garcia, and he tried with every legal power he had, but with Congressman Chris Van Hollen and all of that, but the guy was 16 when he was in the gang. If he was in the gang and he tried to escape it, he came here to escape, and then they branded him as part of the gang. I mean, come on, guys, you can't have it both ways. So
no.
But this guy, I don't know, Victoria, this is your story. I give it all to you.
Yeah, good scoop, Victoria. So yeah, British guy, ICE kicked down his door, rounded him up, and now he's probably on his way back to Britain, unfortunately. So keep your eyes peeled on the streets of Britain for this guy. He's a nice character. Jackie, you have said, no, it's not too harsh, Ben. I think you're talking about detention centres for illegals. They should leave, and the living standards of Brits would rise dramatically with a new government who can understand how business works. Jason, you've said there are prefab units that cost $2,000. Find a deserted island in the Shetlands or refurbish oil rigs in the North Sea. Send the illegals on Navy transport ships to process there. 1 week, the boats from France will be empty, as nobody would come. I completely agree. We erected 6 Nightingale hospitals during COVID, which of course were never used in the end, apart from about 1 or 2 people. Why can't we do the same? Right, let's move on. The Crown. Remember that on Netflix, having wrung every drop of royal drama from Windsor Castle? Netflix is now turning its gaze across the Atlantic to America's own royal family. Can you guess who they are? The Kennedys, of course, who ruled US politics, flirted with Hollywood glamour and suffered more than their fair share of tragedy.
Got killed for it.
Set to become the focus of Netflix's next fictionalised historical drama. And following in the footsteps of The Crown, the new series will chart the rise of John F. Kennedy beginning in the 1930s, long before the family reached the White House. What's your memories of the Kennedy dynasty? Of course, RFK.
I got pictures.
Yeah?
Yeah, I got pictures with them, with Jack.
Who killed RFK?
Yeah, he's been in jail.
Who, the killer?
Yeah.
You believe the story?
Yeah. I think, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, but the basic stories I think are true. But it's a very sad situation. Camelot and the charisma of the Kennedys. And I have a picture with Ted Kennedy. My brother tells me, did you have to look at him like he was God? I'm staring up at him while I was working for him, as a kid when I was the youth vote director for him in his campaign in Massachusetts. So I've had a close relationship with the Kennedys. That's actually was my growth and birth into politics, was the desire for that kind of charisma and leadership. So, I mean, America will never get over, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That was just a great set of times that we had, even though it was a short 2.5 years.
Regardless of who you think killed RFK, I think Bobby,
back to RFK.
RFK Jr.
Oh man, he's an idiot.
Well, he says the CIA killed his uncle.
Yeah.
Bobby.
Right. And he had a worm in his brain, and he's telling people don't take vaccines. I mean, you know, you're talking about Bobby Jr., right?
Well, yeah. I mean, have you heard what he said? What his argument about vaccines is? He's not saying don't take vaccines. He's saying there is
study the facts.
He's saying there's a correlation. Anyway, I don't want to talk about vaccines. What do you make of the Kennedy dynasty? Will you be tuning into Netflix, Victoria, to watch this? Sounds pretty good.
You know, I'm a little bit behind on my Netflix, but I do think that Netflix has, in other shows that they have put out, they have really pushed, as we were talking about again earlier, the DEI woke agenda. So I'm not sure how much longer I'll keep my Netflix subscription, and if it'll be around when this comes out.
Yeah, indeed.
And by the way, you talked about COVID hospitals not used. That's the whole deal why the government is still shut down. The Democrats are saying that the money post-COVID that people used, they're taking 25 million people off health care, 100 million people losing benefits, and people will die. The estimates are 40 million a year will die if they don't restore those COVID subsidies. You guys have a wonderful national health system. I was part of it. I told you I was treated by it.
Yeah.
And it's free. And how the United States doesn't emulate you. Well, you pay for it.
Bob, it's not free by any metric. It comes out my pay packet. It comes out the viewers and listeners' pay packet. Right. And they squander money. And look, no offence. I'm glad your wife had her broken arm treated in London.
Right.
But what happened with your wife shouldn't have happened. They should have taken your insurance details. You know that.
Well, they didn't.
So explain to the viewers what happened. So you came to London a few weeks ago.
They told us everything was free, so even for international visitors. That's what they said.
Your lovely wife broke her arm.
In the shower.
You went on Alex Armstrong's show.
You
went to St Thomas's Hospital.
Right,
in London,
across the street.
And they treated your wife, put her in a cast, gave her an X-ray.
Right.
And what did they say?
And well, first of all, they analyzed the X-ray and they talked about how it was an upper humerus break, and that and they showed me the picture of it, and they said time will heal it. Here's a sling, and yes, you can go home tomorrow. But we needed to know that. We needed to have that. We needed to have the sling, and it was wonderful treatment.
So you didn't pay anything?
Paid nothing.
They didn't ask for any insurance
details? No, and they called out to the hotel afterwards, and they called and asked, "Is everything all right? Did it work out okay?"
Could you imagine?
That's our experience. Maybe they saw that I had a press hanger thing hanging on my chest, you know, but they absolutely handled it beautifully.
This is insane. Look, I'm glad your wife was treated, but you now think that the NHS treats international visitors willy-nilly free of charge?
Well, all I can do is use the case study of what they did with us and what they said, which is that even for international visitors, there is no bill.
It's free. Great.
Well, free, you're right. It's not free. Taxpayers pay for it. We should have that system in the United States where taxpayers pay. It gets pooled, and therefore it's lower cost.
Have you heard of any Canadians being years on the list for treatment and actually coming to the US?
I've been to Canada more times than you can imagine, and they love their healthcare system.
People from Canada are coming to the US to get their health treatment.
And we're going there to get free, cheaper drugs, so come on. You know,
I've never gotten drugs in Canada.
Yeah, I know a lot of people across the border to do that.
Bob, again, this isn't a personal question, but why should hardworking Brits who, by the way, can't see doctors themselves, why should they pay for international patients?
In the emergency room?
Yeah.
Because it's an emergency room situation when somebody breaks.
Well, that doesn't happen here. If I break my leg outside in the street in DC now and go to the emergency room, I'll be charged a bill or ask for my insurance details.
Right.
Now.
Right.
So why should British people
be
mugged?
agree with you. I totally agree with you that you shouldn't be charged here.
All right.
That should be the system we have.
Thank you for your company tonight, Bob. Really appreciate it. You too, Victoria. gbnews.com/your say. Interesting proposition, isn't it? Why should Brits pay for international patients on the NHS whilst me, in DC, if I break my leg, I'm, well, not stitched up. I think it's fair. I'm asked for my insurance details or my credit card. Fair play. Happened in Japan to my mate earlier this year. Anyway, thank you for your company tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. It's been a bit of a slog for me the last 10 days. Bev is back tomorrow. You lucky so-and-sos. I'm back next week. Bev's back tomorrow from midnight in the UK. 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Good night, sweet dreams. Have a good week.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. During the wet day today, we'll see a mixture of sunshine and blustery showers across the UK. Those showers gradually starting to ease from the west, although at the expense of some rain arriving across Northern Ireland during the afternoon. So back to the detail for today, and we've got quite a keen northerly breeze blowing across the UK during the morning. Plenty of showers feeding down in that northerly breeze. And so the showers are starting to ease from the west into the afternoon, so mostly confined towards the north of Scotland and down the eastern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. And then later in the day, outbreaks of rain do reach Northern Ireland, certainly by the early evening. Temperatures generally on the chilly side towards the north still at around about 8 or 9 degrees, peaking at 13 or 14 down towards the south and southwest. As we go into the latter stages of the day, we hold on to quite a few showers across the northeast of Scotland. Still quite a brisk breeze blowing here, but notice out towards the west and southwest, those outbreaks of rain starting to push in from off the Atlantic, and certainly a wet end to the day across Northern Ireland with some heavy bursts of rain in places here. Some rain also pushing across the Irish Sea into West Wales and westernmost counties of England, but elsewhere across central, southern and eastern parts of England, it's a fine end to the day with fairly clear skies in places. As we go into the evening though and through the overnight period, it will turn more unsettled across all parts, for those outbreaks of rain pushing east and southeastwards across all areas, so a pretty unsettled night to come, and we'll see some snow across the high ground in Scotland. Cold enough here for a touch of frost as well by Tuesday morning. We'll see temperatures in rural spots down close to freezing, but holding up near at 9 or 10 degrees, so relatively mild there down towards the south and southwest of the UK. As for Tuesday, well, another unsettled days in store, low pressure dominating, giving further showers or longer spells of rain. I think the best of any sunshine between those showers will be down across parts of England and Wales, whereas again towards the north there, certainly across the highest ground in Scotland, still a bit of a wintry flavour to some of those outbreaks of rain with some snow across the mountains. Temperatures still quite chilly for the time of year, peaking at around about 7 to 10 in the north, up to 14 or 15 down towards the south. That's into the upper 50s in Fahrenheit.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's